Danny Jones has been a lot of things in his life. He is one of Charleston's most well-known and outspoken citizens. Because of this, I wanted to learn a little bit more about him. So I asked him, can we talk? All right, Danny, why don't you, we're here with Danny Jones in his restaurant, of course. And this is kind of a shrine to him. Why don't you tell us about some of these newspaper articles?
Well, that's one you wrote, and that was the first time I got elected mayor. And then you've got the second time I got elected mayor, and somewhere there's a third time, and then way up there's the fourth time. And these are just symbols of things that happened, and I got a lot more out of the Daily Mail than I did out of the Gazette. but which, you know, it is okay. There's another story you wrote back in 1998 when I was at the Department of Highways, and you wrote a thing that I couldn't.
He can't get a job. Yeah. Time and effort to get all this.
Oh, I have no idea.
Saved.
I don't know how it happened.
Have other people done this for you, or
sometimes? But most of the time, these plaques. What happens is the people that are that sell them to me they monitor the paper and they call me and appeal to my vanity, and then I never knew
you don't have any vanity, do you?
I never knew that I would have a place like this to put them in, and I never knew there'd been too many, and this isn't all of them. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's my restaurant on Lee Street, right there. That's where Matt Lauer ate in there, and so did George Stephanopoulos.
Wow.
And there's Governor Moore when I was running for sheriff.
I knew Lauer worked here, but Stephanopoulos actually worked at one of the TV stations.
No, he was. He was
some political organizer.
No, he was nephew to Spiro Stanley.
Oh.
And then there's Otis and I. We were
Otis Lowry.
Yes, we were partners in our first business. Mm-hmm. And then all this stuff. You know, I've got one cars, and then that's when I was in the legislature.
What is it like to be looking at your whole life? Very, very few people, get to do that.
I don't do it very often.
It's
just there.
It still must be kind of
it accumulates.
Kind of a trip.
But that's when I was in the legislature. We played baseball. There's some cars, and there's the only guy that gets a solo on my wall, and that's Richard Neely, who was a great friend.
He's probably a hero of a lot of more rational conservatives, I'd say.
Here's Senator Byrd.
Oh yeah.
Here's Senator Randolph. Mm-hmm. President Obama. Roosevelt Greer.
Oh, Rosie Greer.
Yeah.
What was he here for?
He wasn't here. We were at the 1988 Republican convention.
Rosie Greer is a Republican, or
I believe he was at the time. I don't know what he is now because he's in his 90s.
Okay.
But
it may not be anything.
This is theater, and this is what any young person that'll listen to me, I urge them to get in theater, because once I did theater.
You did a lot of it, didn't you?
I was.
For a while.
I was never afraid after theater. Mm-hmm. You know, when
you're right about that.
When you're on stage, and you can move your eyebrows and make 750 people laugh. Mm-hmm. You're not afraid.
Well, you get desensitized to anxiety because you're throwing it all out there all the time. I've done a little bit of theater, and you're right about that.
And when I was after that, when I was giving speeches, never had a note. The whole time I was mayor, I never read a speech. I just winged it.
And that changed from being in theater? I doubt you were ever a wallflower that was afraid to talk.
No, I was.
Really?
When I was running for sheriff, I'd never given a speech. I never had any.
Yeah, but your personality had.
I never had it. No, I never had any training in school. No college for public speaking. And I remember the first time I was interviewed when I was running for sheriff. They came to my restaurant on Lee Street, and I was scared to death. And the guy who was interviewing me said, "Just be yourself." He just told me, "Just be yourself. You do fine." Mm-hmm. And
but you were never as comfortable as you were after.
Not after this. Mm-hmm. That was Bessel Whorehouse in Texas. That was 1985. Mm-hmm. This was 1989.
You're really belting it out there.
Well, I did. So, and there were a bunch of others. The highlight being Little Abner when I was Little Abner. That was
yeah.
the highlight of my life.
Do you ever wear that outfit just to
No, I couldn't get
stroll
it on.
around anymore?
Shoot, I've gained 50 pounds since then.
And I guess this was a kind of a watershed moment in your life, being in the Marines. That plaque back there.
Yeah, I was.
We'll talk about that.
I went down and I was drafted. So, and there's Taylor Jones used to work for your newspaper. He did a story about me, where I was
How are you depicted there?
on a sandwich with soup.
What's
'Cause
that
that's what
mean?
I was selling.
Oh,
I was
okay.
selling sandwiches and soup.
You look downtrodden.
There it was with Judge Joe Brown. He came here to visit,
Oh.
and I asked if I could come out and sit in his audience, and they arranged it. And so I went out there.
Did you boost his ratings?
No, but I was there, and people asked me. I thought I saw you on the Judge Joe Brown show, which I did. Now there's me and the Governor Dukakis when he was running for president.
We'd like to thank our sponsors, HD Media, the Gazette Mail, and the Media Center for allowing us to bring you these interviews with community leaders and other people who like to talk. Tell us about your childhood. What was it like? Is it fair to say you were born into money?
It didn't feel like it. I mean, we had a big house and everything. We lived in the old Clark house where she was murdered.
Yeah,
But
I didn't know that until recently.
my parents were tough with a buck. And
Coal?
we didn't get any, no,
Is that a common misconception?
yes.
Well, set us straight.
Well, they had stock in a company called Carbon Fuel,
Oh.
which my great-grandfather started, but that was stock. We didn't operate any coal mines.
Well, no, I didn't think you did, but I mean, you owned interest in coal. I mean, that's
No, we had interest in Carbon Fuel, and then when it was bought out by IT&T in '76, I think, then some people made some money, but I didn't have any of that money. And my parents were tight with a buck and were concerned about not having to use high-test gasoline and not putting FM radios in their car. And I mean, so it
They
was,
held on to what they had.
well, I never got into that. I just knew that whatever they had wasn't for me, and I didn't ask them what they had. So I hung
That's
up.
interesting. What do you mean? Whatever they had wasn't for you. What do you? That sounds curious. That sounds interesting. What do you mean by that?
I mean, about the most extravagant thing we did, we would go buy clothes at Frankenberger's. But nobody lavished money on me, ever. So,
Well, what was a typical Saturday? You said you went to Frankenberger's, but I mean,
every once in a while.
okay. Okay. Growing up, though, you say you were kind of oblivious to it. You grew up in South Hills, right?
You grew up on Loudon Heights, and
What was growing up in at that era up in South Hills like? What was
well,
South
there weren't
Hills?
enough kids. I mean, over where we lived,
That's hard to believe.
well, over where we lived, there were the McCabe's, Brooks, and there was Richard Merrill who just died. And those folks, a little group there, so we would go over to McCabe's house, and I was baseball crazy. And we played baseball or softball, and then we played football, and they erected a hoop. We played a lot out in the yard. We played a lot of basketball and stuff like that. And then when I went away, I mean, I was gone every summer for camp. And then in '62, I went to military school for 3 years at Greenbrier Military School for junior high school, and then came back for high school.
What I'd like to, if you could elaborate. You said whatever they had wasn't for me. I'm
I
sorry.
didn't say it like, I mean, what I'm saying is they didn't lavish money on me. If they had money, I wouldn't have known about it. They didn't, it's not like,
Were they kind of tough? Is that what led you to going to Greenbrier Military School? Because I was kind of, they sort of surprised me when it's like, wow, I don't know if I'd want to do that. Did you?
I did. Oh,
You
yes.
did?
Absolutely.
Why?
I just wanted to
just
go.
wanted-
I wanted to go away. And see, I'd gone to summer school, or summer
I
camp.
think I'm getting a picture.
But then I had to come home into 10th grade. And
What happened there? Because there's one of these articles on the wall that the great Sandy Wells, legendary Gazette feature writer, wrote, said that your experience at GW wasn't all that wonderful. What?
I never went. I
How
mean,
did you do that?
well,
I know
I mean-
I know how you do it, but how did you pull that off?
I went to, I took classes. We were the first one with the modular system.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I could leave a lot, and I would go right down the street here. There was a pool room called the Hub, and I would hang out there with George Jarrett and another guy named Richard Butler. And so we just lived down there.
You went in the Marine Corps. Now, at what point was that, and why was that? Was your favorable exposure to the military at that military school that
If
leads you to do that?
If you didn't go to the college, you got drafted. And I got drafted.
Right in Vietnam, right in the
Yeah, and I had read a book. My father bought me a book, a little Signet, 60-cent little paperback. It's called A Draftee's Confidential Guide, How to Get Along in the Army. He wanted me to be a naval officer, but when I hit 16, he said, you're not going to be a naval officer. So he gave me this book, and I read the whole book. Unlike any book, I read it. And on page, I believe it was 18, it said, if you are going to get drafted and you want to get it behind you, don't get near a recruiting sergeant. Go to the draft board. So I went to the draft board. There was a lady named Miss Johnson. I'll never forget it. I said, when will I have to go? And this was September of '69. She said, well, you'll go by January or at the latest February. And I said, could I go earlier? She said, yeah, you can leave November 4th. And so then she had me sign a paper and she drafted me.
You drove a truck. Do I understand that
Later
correctly?
on, yeah.
Yeah.
But then when I got to Beckley, I was informed that I was going to be put in the Marine Corps, which I was flabbergasted. I couldn't believe it, that they could do that, but they can do that. So I went up in the Marine Corps. And then,
Why were you flabbergasted?
because I thought I was going to Fort Jackson, and all my training had been Army training. So anyway, it's okay. So I went there in Parris Island. Then I went to infantry training, the worst winter in the history of North Carolina. So bad. I was sleeping in foxholes.
Are all the tales you hear about Parris Island as bad as?
Every bit of it. Every bit of it. If you watch Full Metal Jacket, that's how it was when I was.
That's a brutal
It was
movie.
exactly like that.
Did you see any combat?
Well, I don't know what you call combat.
Anyone shooting at you? That's what I think of.
Well, how about rockets? Is that good enough? Is that combat?
Just asking.
Is
I
that,
suppose so. Did you have any rockets to fire
yes,
back at?
they were. No, we were hit by our compound. I was at the wing, the air wing in Da Nang, and they rocketed our compound pretty
Really?
incessantly, and
Really?
sometimes pretty radically. So
Did you have any adjustment from that? Did that traumatize you?
I don't think so. I think when you come back here, I don't like to be around fireworks too much, but
So when you came back here, was it then that you got into the bartender?
no, I went
restaurant
to
scene?
no, I went to Marshall for 9 months.
Oh yeah.
And that was a mistake. But I worked at a restaurant across from Old Main and washed dishes that whole time. What I found out about coming back from Vietnam is I thought I might be able to get a girl or get a job or do something. It didn't get you either. Didn't get you anything. People didn't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
They wanted the Vietnam War to go away.
That's sad.
Well, I'm no victim. I don't. And then 20 years later, after the Gulf War, everybody starts this, thank you for your service.
Yeah, they were there like, well, anyway.
And I'm not upset about any of it because I'm not a victim.
So you went-
Victims don't win. I was digging graves up cemetery, but
You really did that. You really
Yeah.
dug
all
gra-
summer in
Why-
'72.
Why?
And I would have stayed up there, but the problem is that we had a strike, a garbage strike 50 years ago, and pretty well shut this city down. And I thought, I'm not going. People had guns, and I wasn't going to get shot for $2.40 an hour. So I kept working at night at the number 8 as a doorman, and then I started selling a bottle of water.
Now, it said that you were a bouncer. Was that, you might as well say that?
Technically, yeah.
Did you ever bounce? You were a pretty good sized fellow.
No,
Did
I
you ever
didn't
have
know.
to bounce? You ever had
Number 8 was the whole key to that thing is don't let them get past the door. stand in the door until you see. Once a person gets in a place, you're gonna have trouble getting them out. Once they sit down to eat, if they start trouble, you're gonna have trouble getting them out.
You never had to try to keep anyone out?
Yes.
What was that like? Did you have to have help?
No.
I wouldn't want to do that.
No, but I had myself in the middle of the door. And so I went to the athletic club in, I don't know, August of 73 and worked there until, I guess, the beginning of January. But that was a great job. And I worked 8 at night till 4 in the morning, slept all day, get up and watch the Watergate hearings, you know. But then the athletic club came and got me. Not the athletic club, but the Daniel Boone came and got me. And they were offering me free room, free food, $200 a week. It was the best job I probably ever had. And I was making, I don't know, maybe in cash, probably $75 a day in $1974. And
Wow.
you'd buy a pack of cigarettes for 30 cents. And you get gas, well, then it went up to about 50. But I didn't even have it. I didn't need a car. Everything was there.
And what were your aspirations then? I mean, you went on to become a member of the House of Delegates,
The aspirations.
a four-term mayor. That's what you're most
No.
Well,
You're getting way ahead of things. The aspirations were
What were your aspirations then and there?
to have fun each night, and have a good time each night. And I did.
And you succeeded in that.
I did until about September. I think when they took out the triangle, I liked it down there. I had fun down there. I went.
What was fun?
I bought my liquor on Court Street when you were buying bootleg booze, and it's 7, 8 o'clock on Sunday morning, and
You could get anything you wanted there, couldn't you?
it was great. And everybody was nice.
You once said people underestimate you. I read that in the Sandy Wells program. Why did you why did you say that?
Every significant election I've been in, like the two biggest ones, were running for sheriff and then running for mayor the first time. And running for sheriff, I was running against a great man, Steve Edwards, the coach at GW. But he was 47 years old, 48. I was 33, 34. And I was dismissed as a bartender. I was a cook by that time and had restaurants.
How can you be dismissed as a
Because
bartender?
they didn't.
You must have been.
No, but I technically had a saloon. I had the place on Lee Street, which sold liquor, but the place was known for food. Because I operated the first sandwich line, and they'd line up clear out the door to get this food. And that's what I was known for by that time. And that's what helped me to ingratiate myself to people on an individual basis, none of which any other candidate ever did.
Did people see you as sort of like, that's that kid from South Hills that just raises hell?
Well, that was the...
and he can't really be serious. And
No, I didn't raise hell. I wasn't out and
it's been
about.
downtown raising.
I was downtown guy. I had a small circle of friends and various places I went to drink, and I was on the prowl, and.
Can you tell anything from that time period that was that's it's PG, that's
Well, when I was
that's
sheriff.
funny.
When I was sheriff, I was single and young, and
Yeah, I've seen pictures of you back then. You
I
looked
had
like
my-
I thought he probably had a good time.
I had my way, and I was single, and I didn't, and then and I drank a lot, and but I always kept things in line. I did a good job as sheriff. We computerized county government. We kept the jail from going into receivership, and I put Larry Harold in charge of the road patrol, and he knew what he was doing. I did a good job as sheriff.
You've maintained that your drug use though ended before you
It did.
before you became sheriff.
A few years before.
How serious did that ever become? Was it just the standard stuff that a lot of people
In the
are
70s,
are used to, marijuana
Yeah,
and coke?
I never liked cocaine. I just didn't. I tried, but I never liked it. I liked marijuana, but I quit doing that about 1980. And
What was it about Coke that didn't turn
I
your
just
crank?
didn't. I don't like it. It didn't do for me. I guess everybody wants to get up, and
You didn't.
you have to. I think you have to keep taking.
You
it.
seem fairly high strung. I mean, not in a bad way. Don't But I mean, just observing you.
Yeah.
You seem like you've got plenty of energy to start with.
I regretted doing that, but once you've done it, you've done it, and.
You said you drank a lot. How did you balance that? How did you?
Well, in the 80s.
Were you a functioning alcoholic? Or
Yeah, in the 80s, I ran I went out to this Y and I swam a mile every morning. Then I'd go eat breakfast.
Oh yeah, I read about you. You ran. You were running and
Wait a
exercising.
minute, I'm not done. I swam a mile every morning, then I ate breakfast, and I go to work at the Sheriff's Department. And sometime that afternoon, either lunch or after work, I'd go out and run 5 to 10 miles. And then I got my body all pumped full of oxygen, and then I'm ready for the evening.
You weren't young, were you?
But then by the time I got to Nitro in 1990, when I opened that restaurant down there, I could feel things were starting to change, and I was drinking so much that,
Wearing on you.
well, kind of shapes your personality. I mean, I did a good job, worked hard down there. We worked 10, 12 hours a day, and we were open 7 days a week, and I worked every single day, but I always had alcohol, you know. I would take periodic times when I didn't drink, but it'd last 4.
It's always made me feel too bad the next day. I'm a wuss. That's probably
I know that, but that's-
saved me from some things.
That's why you wait until it's time to drink again, and you'll feel fine.
But it's at Nitro though. That must have been a tough time, because if you were dealing with the effects of the drinking for a while, what happened when you went home to rest one evening was that was another chapter entirely.
I lived
wasn't
right
it?
out back
Okay.
of night, just like here.
Okay.
I lived right out back.
And what I'm talking about? What when you went home to rest that evening, something terrible happened.
We're talking about, oh yeah, oh gosh. That was February of 93. And I didn't drink that night. I went home and I was left at 9:30. And I got home at 9:35. And the guy who was closing the restaurant for me says, "You better come back here. Dale stabbed Todd." And Todd was Judge Slanga's brother.
Oh, jeez.
And
Well, that'd be a terrible period.
he did that. He did that because he wanted to kill somebody because he wanted to see what it'd feel like. I found that out afterwards. And he's got mercy, so every few years we have to go back and make sure he stays in, because he'll do it again, this guy.
But you said that affected you a great deal in that quote anyway, in that story. You said, other than the birth of one of your sons.
Well, I had to pretend after that. I had to pretend I wanted to be there. And I lost half my help, lost half my business. And we just had to slowly rebuild the place.
You don't want to
Rebuilt it.
own a restaurant where. Well,
Yeah, what happens is if there's a dead body, there's, the strip bar down here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had a dead body up there in 1968. And it was a real nice club until that. But once you have a dead body, it was a murder at the Rib House.
What is it about you that you're such an open book, and you like to talk, and you don't shrink from anything? Have you always been that way?
I think that here's what I've learned.
I think you're a bit of a self-promoter, and I mean that respectfully. And I think is to be in business, you need to be. Is that fair?
Okay, I'll let you be the.
Do you enjoy it?
Well, I think the point is that public life found me, and then I got into it. And I always felt like not all the news is good, so the bad news you wear.
And you wear it?
You wear it. You put it out there.
No, you just say
You
here.
know, when I was
just
running
say, "Here it
when
is."
I was running for mayor, they would call Brad McElhaney. They say, "Why don't you write something about Danny doing cocaine?" It's just because Danny tells on himself,
you knew that enough people, you had been around this town, enough people knew you. When you ran for mayor, you had to felt you had a pretty good shot. I did. I think everyone else did too.
No, they didn't.
I remember.
They
I remember
Chris.
that.
Now wait a minute.
I remember it.
I was running
remember
against
it.
a good person.
Yes.
Part of the McCorkle family.
Yes. Yes.
Chris Smith. You could have talked to him. He was 18 points ahead in the polls and all that. And I just said, okay. I wish I'd have left after 3.
What was it? What was it about the last term?
Well, I didn't want to be there, and you get cynical, and the council turned on me, and see, what people don't understand is when you live in a rich area like Quarry Creek or up there up there in Loudon Heights, the needles didn't hit up there. They were all over the place down here. People, they didn't call those people. They didn't call those council people. They called me, and it really had just about. We had 40 abandoned house fires in 40 days, and we had to stop it.
They were on the west side, I'm guessing.
Council wouldn't stop it. I was trying to get council to stop it, even though I had a way I could stop it through my chief of police. But so then what we did an undercover thing. I didn't know they were going to do it, where they sent a woman in there, didn't have any ID, didn't have anything, and they gave her 40 needles. And we proved then the thing was a sham. So then we made rules that you had to use a certain kind of needle, so they had to stop it.
Well, everything that happened was kind of whether you did, acted correctly, and this is all a matter of opinion, or whether your positions were right, wrong, or indifferent. Everything they're in that last term, it seems like the conditions in the city just sort of deteriorated a little
I think
bit.
that was because of needles. I mean, because all that we had so many 911 calls. Somebody walked into Macy's and stole $30,000.
You can't require people to go in places if they don't agree to abstain from alcohol and drugs. You can't require people to go into anywhere. But even if they have an interest in it, they got to stay.
If you want to get rid of them, you got to quit feeding them. And I didn't do it while I was mayor, but I don't know how I would have stopped it. But that's the reason they're here. There are so many amenities for homeless people here in Charleston. This is a good, soft ride for those folks. And I just roll with it. I'm on the 5th floor of the Atlas building. And so if things get too bad, that's where you'll find me.
The homeless issue is certainly a red button thing. It's probably going to play a very big part in the mayoral election.
I don't think it's.
You don't think so? I mean, how could it not?
Well, who's going to play it? Is Lance?
I would think.
How much have you heard about what he's going to do? I mean,
that's his problem.
Lance is not a politician. He's a great guy. I've known him better part of 5 decades. This race will not be close.
They heard it here first.
You're not going to, I like him. And I like the mayor. She's been very nice to me. Her views are different than my views.
I know that. Yeah.
But my views don't prevail anymore, and I accept that. I roll with whatever they're going to do out there. If it gets too bad here, I'll lock it up.
Tell me about your personal life a little bit. You have 3 sons altogether.
Yeah.
And the relationship with one has been troubled. You've acknowledged that.
He's out. Too dangerous. But the other 2 are great. And
Can I just gently, when you say he's dangerous, what?
I mean, somebody lives that lifestyle is not predictable. And for me, it's not a situation.
Him being your own son, though, is it hard?
Makes it worse. No, I don't. That's over. I have to protect myself, and I have to protect those boys. And the 15-year-old Jared, he left this morning, and I'm not going to see him all week, and I'm already missing him.
And Jared's 15, and you have one
14.
Who's younger? Andrew.
Andrew, different as night and day.
And they live with you right at the Atlas building.
Andrew has a room up there. He stays up there some, but Jared's up there almost every day. I mean, he lives there. He goes to school and tells everybody he has his own apartment.
Yeah. Well, it kind of does.
He does, that's right.
They adjoin, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What? How have they enriched your life? And you know, you said you're on good terms with your ex-wife.
Yeah,
with
very
the,
much.
the mother of those two
Sure.
boys. Yeah.
I think every,
Do you regret that you didn't have the the long marriage and the white picket fence and the and
no,
all
that's
that? Do you
not
think-
for, that's not for me.
I wouldn't think so.
No, I was 55 years old and I tried to go legit. It didn't work. I
legit.
lied. I did it for 5 years.
Go legit.
Yeah.
What makes you not
Charlie
a good?
Lawrenson asked me that question. What he said to me, he said,
What are you doing?
why did you get married? I said, I was trying to go legit.
What makes you not a good candidate to be a husband?
No, I just like living right and being free. I love being around the boys. You know,
You mentioned your independence or something. You really, really wanted your independence when you were young. Is that something you've always valued?
very much.
Self-determination. You're not going to tell me what to do.
Living alone.
Yeah,
I mean, back when I was in the 70s,
that's. I've got some of that in me.
yeah.
I understand.
But like in those times when I worked at the athletic club in Daniel Boone, those were the best times because, like at the athletic club, I'd get off at 4 in the morning, sleep all day, and then get up and I'd have to go back to work till 8 o'clock at night. And after we get off work at 3:30 or 4, we
So you would read Tolstoy or
we would
work
go to-
algebraic
No,
equations?
we'd go to after an illegal bar to drink after hours.
What?
Yes. They had one over there called the Palm Gardens.
You're conservative on some subjects, but you're probably not a.
I'm a
but-
libertarian.
but-
I don't understand
You're
this.
probably live and let live on other things. What is
Well,
it about?
this
What is it
obsession-
about Trump that upsets you?
The right-wing legislature, more than that, the right-wing legislature coming after the gays. I don't like that. I just don't like it. I grew up with a lot of gay people here. And
Spending a lot of time downtown in the '70s, you
well,
probably did.
also, at the a lot of those guys come from rural areas, and they are dogmatic. So they want their church.
You mean Trump followers?
Those Trump followers, yeah, they're and it's just blind. It's an identity.
Does it go beyond what you consider traditional conservatism?
It's not conservatism. Romney's conservative, not Trump.
And what's he?
He's Trump. He's
But there was
nuts,
a-
and
the-
he may be if that prosecutor in Georgia tries to do something, or it'll be interesting to see him do these depositions up in New York, and him and his kids, and they'll be on video, and maybe we'll all get to watch them.
You lived in the Holly Hotel right
4
across
years.
the street. Why? And I know we've hopscotched in back and forth a little bit, but why in the world? This was during that 1970s era, I guess. Why did you live there?
I liked it.
Why? How?
Well, you could walk everywhere
But why the Holly though?
because it was close to downtown. If you drank too much, you could walk home.
It was pretty run down though, wasn't it?
Not in the 70s.
Not so much.
Not until the Holly didn't get run down bad until in the 80s because he had an account with the state where he would house the guys that were coming in for the black lung checks. So they stayed there, and that was his subsidy, and kind of $80,000 a year, which made things work. So he could use that money to build up, so he could give this person something for $8 a month. I mean,
Now
Frankie,
Frankie Veltri.
Frank Veltri.
Yeah. You know, where do you go from here? What do you like this a lot?
I try to stay alive. I have to take a month off every year. It hurts my business, but to spend time with my kids and I'm getting my throat looked at because there's something going on there, and then I'm gonna do some doctor stuff while I'm off and do some personal stuff. What you find out is, and this is very important, when you have a job like I did and you're a public official and a public person, most of the friendships you have while you're in there are institutional friendships. And once you leave, they're gone. Some people you never speak to again, and they pretend to be your best friend. When I endorsed this mayor for re-election, that's before I knew Lance was going to run. There are people that got so mad they won't come in here, and I blocked them, their phone numbers, and put them on Facebook because I don't want them in my life. First thing, it's nobody's business who I support. It's just nobody's business. I'll do what I want.
Do you sympathize with her when she starts getting a lot of heat, whether you agree with what she's done or not? Can you?
I think she insulates herself pretty well from criticism. She manages a lot better than I did. Every reporter had my phone number. They called me directly. Rod was put up here to go through that. Nobody. I had my own talk show. Anybody could call me.
Well, you're a reporter's dream that way.
I was the most accessible, most transparent public official that I know of anywhere.
I was away from the paper for a long time, and now I'm back. One of the main things I see is that elected officials are far less accessible.
Oh,
now.
it's terrible. They
across
all
the
they
board.
have people and
People like you would be a godsend now.
I remember there was when I was doing
Even
news,
if I didn't like what you did or whatever, you'd talk. I mean, I didn't really cover you, but I mean, just anyway, go ahead.
there was a secretary of HHR back in the 90s. She was sitting here. There was a young lady sitting here, and I was sitting here, and I said, and I knew this lady. This lady and I knew each other. And I tried to talk to her, and she said, "You'll have to go through her." I said, "What?"
Oh, that's aggravating, yeah.
And it said, "What do you want with?" And I just, nothing. I don't understand people like that. Everybody has people. The government can't afford that kind of foolishness. People should just talk.
I agree.
Tell the truth.
I agree. Well, we call this show "Can We Talk?" I think we've done a lot of it.
Thank you.
Are you happy with it?
Yeah, thank you. It's very nice.